Hello, my name is Paul Grime, and I'm speaking to you from the organ in Kramer Chapel on the campus of Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I serve as a professor and also dean of the chapel. This spring, CPH is publishing a collection of my hymn introductions. The title is called Inviting Them to Sing, 60 Hymn Introductions and How to Prepare Your Own. As you can perhaps surmise from that subtitle, there are two parts to this collection. There are 60 hymn introductions covering about 45 tunes, but there are also a number of pages that talk about how you might be able to prepare your own hymn introductions, as well as some other matters related to playing organ, playing hymns, etc. My goal of this collection is to encourage organists not simply to play through a hymn as the introduction, but to perhaps find some musical ways of providing interest. And my introductions that I provide in the volume demonstrate that, as well as the descriptions at the beginning. So what I'd like to do for you right now is just to play a few examples and to talk a little bit about some of the thinking behind some of these introductions that I've prepared. First off, I want to point out the fact that you don't always have to play the entire hymn for an introduction. If it's just a four-phrase hymn, that's necessary probably to play all of it, if only to give folks time to find the hymn in the hymnal. But if it's a longer hymn and it's a familiar hymn, it may not be necessary always to play the whole hymn. In fact, I find quite often it's very fitting to start right at the beginning, to start in the middle of the hymn rather than at the beginning. So let me give an example. This is God of Grace and God of Glory. I'm going to show you a very simple introduction. You'll notice the pedal part is very simple, as well as many of these are either without pedal or very simple pedal. Here we go. Short and to the point, and yet it's very clear what the hymn will be, and off we can go to sing it. Another example, Crown Him with Many Crowns. I have two settings of this. One is a longer setting, but I'm going to play again the shorter setting. Another example is I Lay My Sins on Jesus. Again, simple and to the point. At the end of this setting, though, you're going to hear the first phrase of the melody in the left hand being played with a trumpet stop. It allows you to start in the middle, but yet you hear the very first notes just at the very end of the setting. One final example is the hymn Salvation Unto Us Has Come. Again, a very simple setting. This is rather short, and so one would have to be careful perhaps not to start it too early so that the congregation has time to find the hymn. But you'll hear at the very end the very first phrase of the hymn. So again, I start in the middle, but you get the first phrase just hinted at the very end. In my discussion at the beginning of the book, talking about different ways to create hymn introductions, one of the principles I talk about is varying the texture. Rather than just playing all four parts of the hymn all the way through, one option is to sometimes play just maybe the melody alone, or two parts, three parts, or then all four parts. And I'll give a couple examples of that. This is Blessed Light, O Trinity, and you'll notice each phrase it adds a voice. So we start with just the melody, then a two-part phrase, three-part, and then the entire hymn. This one is Lord of all nations, grant me grace. The same principle, adding a voice with each phrase. One other example is going to be Blessed Jesus at Your Word. And this time it's going to alternate solo, two-part, then we'll take two-part but go into the bass and tenor range. So it's moving the texture around as well as varying the levels of texture. I have introductions that use various types of compositional techniques. One of those is the use of a pedal point, where you simply hold a single note in the pedal, or for at least most of the hymn, a single note. This first example, where Charity and Love Prevail, is precisely that. It's going to be the same note, a low F in the pedal through the entire piece, while the melody is sounded carefully above that. In this example, Awake, O Sleeper, Rise from Death, or For 1,000 Tongues to Sing, the pedal point can either be played in the left hand or in the pedal. There are two notes most of the time, so you would actually be playing with both of your feet. But because there's very little change in the pedal part, even those who might be fearful of doing double pedal could find this perhaps a kind of a fun opportunity to give it a try. And finally, I'm going to play you two settings of "Oh, Dear Christians, One and All Rejoice." Both of them are playing with the melody. You don't hear the entire melody played throughout. First, I'll do the simple little version that starts again in the middle, but allows you to hear enough of the melody that it's very obvious what hymn we're going to be singing. And then the second one just plays a little differently with moving it to a different key at one point. But again, the melody is clearly heard, but in a simple little way that's rather interesting. Hopefully that gives you a little taste of what is included in this volume, and perhaps you'll find it useful in your service as you lead the congregation to sing, using this resource, inviting them to sing. Thanks for listening.